So can you tell us, like, shortly, how you been raised, Coach? How did your parents raise you?
This is loaded. Of course, I was raised in a Christian family, and my family on both sides come from Kansas by way of Oklahoma, and that's in America they call that the Bible Belt. So we grew up with very strict, what we would consider Christian values. I grew up, I didn't call my mother mama, I called my mother mother. When I was real small, I had to be excused from the table. People outside of the family, I had to say yes ma'am, and yes sir. I had to address people by Mr. Any infraction in my mother's house was immediately addressed. I didn't have options. I couldn't talk back. I was the 6-year-old kid sent to go buy my mother's female products at 6 years old, and my mother would give me some instructions that I had to use to survive. At 6 years old, you got dogs in the neighborhood, you got who knows what, older people, bad people. You got to look for cars, cross the street, buy her stuff, come back. And with me doing that, my fear of letting down my mother was greater than the danger of the streets. That's how I was raised. My father, on the other hand, was, to me, he wouldn't say that about himself. To me, was a manly father. His voice put me in check. His anger snapped me up. My mother used to have to spank me, with a belt. That's how we do it in America. You got to get whooped with a belt. Yeah, we mother go get a belt. And if you get the old folks, they take a little skinny branch from the tree called a switch, and that cut. Oh my God!
Parents get whoopings.
Hey, back in my. But you know what? I tell you what, man. Even though, I haven't raised my kids like that, man, they kept me out of stuff. And I believe that even in Islam, teach your children how to pray at 7 and beat them at 10 if they don't.
Right.
So the physical discipline in its right context has a place in putting kids in check. I don't think you should have extremism in it. Personally, I'm very mild in my physical discipline with my kids because I'm going back to what I learned from my mother. I want my kids to trust me. In order for them to trust me, I can't give them options when they're kids. When I tell them not to do something, they have to do it. That to me, and at the same time, it's not just ordering. I can show them love, and I can congratulate them from their achievement when they do what I say. I can reward them for that. I personally, this is how I was raised. It wasn't perfect. I was exposed to things that, a typical Saudi family would say, A'udhu billah, what's that? Ish hada? I was exposed to drugs. I saw drugs I saw alcohol. I saw, as a small kid, I saw pornography. At the same time, that's American life. Pornography is on the streets. Don't blame my parents for that. That's American culture.
Right.
You go to American families, everybody had an uncle who had Playboy magazine collection. Okay?
Old school.
Yeah, that's what I'm just keeping it real. This is the truth. This is the culture. Certain families, a man drinking a beer, watching a sports game is just normal. A woman and her husband having a glass of wine with dinner this is normal with some people, and I was raised around that. Okay.
In your childhood, how to recover? Let's say for a guy that he was raised around a Muslim guy, he was raised around this stuff, how to recover from that, in your opinion?
If you mean recovering, mean like removing yourself from those things?
Right.
I think even, as I told you, we grew up as a strict Christian. Those things are still deemed bad, even though they exist, and even though it might exist with certain family members. So it's still looked as bad. So once I became a Muslim off of knowledge. Okay? I was a college student. I was reading books. I had a report to do. That's how I got to Islam. If I become Muslim, alladhi yastaslim lillah subhanahu wa ta'ala, if I became a Muslim, then if that's the way, that's the way. That's how you remove it from you. Because he who truly submits to God,
SubhanAllah.
it can be away from you. Even if you fall into it, you would have nadam, you would have remorse, and you would come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You see what I mean? You have a guilt there. You have a, the door of repentance is open for those who want it. You see what I mean? And because I knew that, anytime as a young Muslim that I failed, I came back. Because, once you totally give in, I mean, it doesn't just stop it right there. Once you totally give in to your desires, what's next? You lose total self-control.
Right.
And the human being is given free will to navigate this world between right and wrong. And once you lose your control, you lose your ability to navigate, what's next?